So the other day, I was thinking about Boruto because my mind simply cannot escape it, and I was reflecting on how well Boruto has done as a sequel to such a legendary franchise like Naruto. See, because while Boruto has managed to maintain a lot of the things that made Naruto incredibly good, it's also found a way to make its own charm with its own power system and really separate itself from the original that it's based off. And while that might be one of the main complaining points that a lot of people who hate on Boruto cite, I believe Boruto's ability to make itself a unique separation from the Naruto universe is one of its biggest strengths. Whether it be the complete differentiation in how power is acquired in the Boruto universe, or how entirely different our main characters are in Boruto than they were in Naruto. Because while Naruto was one conversation away from a friend with every single bad guy he ever bumped into, Boruto was one sword slice away from a body bag with every person who minorly inconveniences him. And while Sasuke threw himself outside of the village in the pursuit of power, Kawaki ironically nestled himself into a village and a family while in pursuit of love. The stories of Naruto and Boruto, while based in the same universes, could not be less alike. But at the same time, Boruto has a lot of the charm and tropes that we loved from Naruto now carried on over to the new generation. And I think the way that Kishimoto has pulled this off has been masterful, especially when you consider the fact that Boruto as a story gets substantially better after Kishimoto takes over in chapter 52, as Boruto prior to that point was being written by Kishimoto's chosen successor, Ikemoto. And while Ikemoto is still heavily involved in the creation of Boruto, it's once again Masashi Kishimoto's project. But since the product got so much better after Kishimoto decided to re-seize the reins, it got me thinking, if he was able to do it once, would he be able to do it twice? That's to say that Kishimoto has done such a good job with Boruto that I wonder if he can make another spin-off in the Naruto universe. See, Kishimoto is only 49 years old, and while in mangaka years that's like 103, Akira Toriyama is 68 and still kind of releasing Dragon Ball content. And therefore, considering the fact that Boruto will probably be done in at most the next 5 years, doesn't feel crazy to me to assume that Kishimoto is going to continue writing after Boruto's end. And while Kishimoto obviously at the beginning of Boruto wasn't exactly stoked about the prospects of starting a new Naruto story, because as we all know, Boruto wasn't started by him, as he wanted to go try and start another manga known as Samurai Number 8. And now that Kishimoto has returned to the universe with such open and uproarious arms, and after the failure of trying to branch out of the Naruto universe that was Naruto Number 8, it wouldn't be crazy to assume that if Kishimoto, after the end of Boruto, continues making manga, that they would stay based in the Naruto universe. And this is something that we've all begged and pleaded for, as we've cried out to Kishimoto wherever in Japan he is to please make a Minato or a Sakamoto Hatake spin-off. Fill the holes in our knowledge of the Naruto timeline. Give us a peek into the second or third Great Shinobi World Wars through the eyes of Minato or Sakamoto Hatake. Maybe give us a look into the Uzumaki clan downfall through their eyes. Show us what the Warring States period looked like through the eyes of Madara or Hashirama. Or even continue the story of Naruto's lineage through the medium of Boruto and Sarada's child. While ideas like a Minato or a Sakamoto Hatake or even an Ashura Uzumaki spin-off story would be incredible based off the spin-offs that have already happened, we'd be kind of crazy to assume that a new spin-off based in the Naruto universe would be anything but Boruto. Look at your keyboard, NBV. Naruto, Boruto, Boruto. It'd be especially crazy to assume that this spin-off would be anything but Boruto, especially when you consider the fact that that Boruto will probably be the child of Boruto and Sarada, which will have the chakra of the two main characters of the story that started this all running through their blood, and would also be half Otsutsuki. The more I got to thinking about a future post-Boruto, the more I got to realizing that another sequel isn't very likely. Now, this isn't just because I want a Minato spin-off more than anything I've ever wanted, or because I believe a look into Sakamoto Hatake or Ashura Uzumaki's life would tell us things about Naruto we never even thought to think we needed to know. No, the reason that I believe post-Boruto, the story, not the character, the idea of a sequel being the next piece of content that comes out of the Naruto universe is incredibly unlikely, is because the ending of Boruto and the ending of Naruto are gonna be fundamentally different. At least so long as something doesn't massively change, the ending of Boruto will be fundamentally different than the ending of Naruto. That's because at the ending of Naruto's story, while he's incredibly powerful, he's still immortal, meaning he'll age and get weaker as time passes until eventually his strength is overcome by the next generation. And you can say the same thing for Sasuke and Sakura and every other member of the Konoha 13. I guess if you're talking the Konoha 13, one of them already learned about the mortal side of things in the Fourth Great Shinobi World War, but still, you get it. After the conclusion of Naruto's story, the generation that we were raised with in Naruto was gonna continue aging. That's not the case for Boruto's, because at the end of Boruto's story, there's a fair amount of possibility that Boruto, Kawaki, and Mitsuki are all immortal still, which would mean even if Boruto did have a child with Sarada, that Boruto, that child, would never have an opportunity to overcome Boruto, because Boruto would probably outlive Boruto. Because if we learned anything from Kaguya, Hagoromo, and Hamura, half Otsutsukis don't live forever. Regular Otsutsukis probably do.
But Nick, why do you say probably?
Well, we're gonna get into that in a second, because today we're talking there will never be another sequel to the Naruto universe. But before we get to talk about anything, guys, please, for me, like this video, subscribe to the page, hit that noti bell. And if you guys like me talking about anime and their sequels, you're gonna love my other channel, The Weeb Commander, where instead of talking about Naruto and Boruto, I talk all other anime. Or if you just like the idea of me talking about anime, you're gonna love my anime podcast, Who Talks Anonymous, where me and Danny Mata break down everything that happened in anime. This week, it's available on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Or if you just want to look like somebody who keeps up to date with all things anime and their sequels, go ahead and meander on over to my merch store, talkersanonymous.net, where you can pick up some of the greatest anime t-shirts, sweatshirts, and sticker packs known to man. But before we get into all that, today we gotta talk about our favorite recurring sponsor to the page, HelloFresh. Listen, it's a brand new year, and whether your resolution is to save money, time, or eat better, HelloFresh has got your back. HelloFresh is telling you to say hello to your most delicious and healthy year yet, as they want to help you get fresh ingredients and chef-crafted recipes to your table every night. And the beauty of it all gets delivered right to your door. See, each box of HelloFresh is packed with farm-fresh ingredients, and everything arrives right to your door, pre-packaged to make sure you have less hassle and less waste. But if that's not the kind of waste that you're worried about, HelloFresh also has you covered, because HelloFresh knows that this time of year, everybody's trying to change their eating habits, which is why HelloFresh offers over 30 calorie and protein smart options every single week. So whether you're trying to cut calories or smash your macros, they've got you covered. And listen, HelloFresh has been a part of my life since long before they started sponsoring this page. See, HelloFresh in college allowed me to lose over 50 pounds. And nowadays it stops me from mindlessly wandering through the alleys of grocery stores trying to figure out how many boxes of pasta I need for this mac and cheese recipe. But I can talk and talk and talk about how good HelloFresh is all day long, but let's be real. Seeing is believing. So let's head downstairs to my kitchen.
Honestly, before HelloFresh, I probably couldn't have taken this combination of ingredients and even made a halfway decent meal. And not only would I have no idea what I was doing with those ingredients, but I also wouldn't be nearly as skillful as a chef as I am nowadays. And the beauty of HelloFresh is that you're either cooking 2 or 4 portions. So I got dinner for tonight and dinner for tomorrow, or dinner for Dorothy when she gets home from work. But most importantly, how did I do? Let me tell you, very good.
So what are you guys waiting for? Go to HelloFresh.com and use code NCHammer23 free for free breakfast for life. Yes, that's right. If you use the code NCHammer23 free, you'll get 1 free breakfast item with every single box that you get while your subscription is still active. That's code NCHammer23 free for breakfast on HelloFresh and me. So Boruto, our ever-changing, mysterious, and incredibly powerful main character. Boruto is able to acquire his own story in a masterful way from Kishimoto because inherently Naruto had to step down in terms of relevance eventually. See, well, obviously Naruto's story doesn't end with Naruto at the peak of his power, as Naruto doesn't achieve the peak of his power until Boruto. The expectation at the end of Naruto is that one day he would get older and therefore inherently weaker. And while the majority of the content that came out after Naruto's ending, that being pretty much the first 50% of Boruto and Naruto the last, so that Naruto had only gotten stronger since the conclusion of the 4th Great Shinobi World War, as Naruto aged and grew into his role as Hokage of the Leaf, he slowly became less and less involved in all things battlefields. And thus, while Naruto was inarguably stronger than he'd ever been, he was also as far from the battlefields as he ever would be. And thus, if Naruto had never become Hokage and had stuck to the battlefields like Sasuke, he could have gotten even stronger. But really, when it comes down to it, regardless of how close to the battlefields Naruto stuck, the stars never aligned for Naruto to allow him to remain relevant in the power sphere of what is essentially his own universe. See, because while obviously Rust did play into the fact that Naruto lost a little bit of his edge, truly the biggest contributing factor to the fact that Naruto is no longer the strongest person in his universe was the expansion of his universe. See, because for a long time, Naruto was the strongest person on Earth. But then comes Naruto the Last, and now we're not just dealing with the Earth, we're also dealing with the Moon. And while the Moon has always kind of been an issue, as the Moon is where Kaguya was sealed, we didn't know until Naruto the Last that people were living on the Moon, at least still, because obviously we knew that Hamura had gone to the moon to keep an eye over the Ten-Tails husk. But with the Last, it was introduced that people had lived on the moon for thousands of years. And the last remaining member of that clan, Toneri Otsutsuki, was insanely powerful. So powerful that the only person who stood a chance against him was Naruto. However, the universe didn't stop expanding at the moon, as the universe continued to expand in all directions, be they physical directions or dimensionally, as it was revealed that hundreds, if not thousands, if not an infinite amount of dimensions exist, which are constantly being plundered by the Otsutsuki, dimension-traveling aliens that eat and destroy any planet that they come across. And thus, as Naruto gained the moniker of the strongest human being on Earth, he, over time, had to realize that he was just a big fish in a very little pond. And thus, as the scope of the pond got larger and larger, new, bigger fish came in, and they happened to drop new shiny powers all across this vastly expanding pond. However, Naruto wasn't the person to receive those powers. That was his son, Boruto. And thus, while Naruto was able to achieve as much power through conventional human means as possible, there was a ceiling to what he could accomplish with ninjutsu, taijutsu, and senjutsu. However, there isn't a ceiling to what his son, Boruto, can achieve with things like karma markings. And therefore, on top of age, an entirely new power system being introduced to separate Boruto from Naruto made sure that Naruto would never be the most important person or the strongest person in Boruto's universe ever again, thus ensuring that the old guard would be protected by the new. But what happens if the old guard never becomes the old guard? Because while Naruto's generation did the absolute same thing to Kakashi's generation and all the generations prior to them that Boruto is doing to Naruto's generation, barring an even bigger and scarier alien threat outside of the Otsutsuki getting introduced towards the end of Boruto, there's really no way that Boruto can ever become the old guard. Because as it currently stands, Boruto has access to the strongest abilities in the entire universe. Between his karma marking and Jogan, he's halfway to Otsutsuki God. And concerning the fact that Shibai, presumably the only Otsutsuki God, is going to be the final boss of Boruto, after Shibai is defeated, there's really no reason for us to believe that Boruto wouldn't be the closest thing to a godhead figure in the Otsutsuki. And thus the problem with the idea of a sequel post Boruto is that how would Boruto ever get a chance to shine? See, because while it would obviously be cool to see a half Otsutsuki, half Uchiha, half Uzumaki child running around with a Sharingan and a Jogan and a Tenseigan, and it would be really cool to see that child surpass their parents, who would be Sarada and Boruto. Unfortunately, there's no current reason for Boruto to ever slow down. Boruto is now 100% Otsutsuki. So much so that the divine trees, also known as the Shinju, call Kawaki and Boruto Otsutsuki. Not Kawaki. I don't actually, did he ever have a last name? Well, I guess Uzumaki, technically. But anyways, they're not Boruto and Kawaki Uzumaki, they're Boruto and Kawaki Otsutsuki. And while being 100% Otsutsuki, it comes with an insane amount of power that allows Kawaki and Boruto to set themselves apart from basically everybody else. It also presumably comes with immortality. See, here's the thing. The subject of immortality as it pertains to the Otsutsuki is kind of hazy. I mean, it's not, but people will tell you that it is. All we really understand about immortality as it pertains to the Otsutsuki is that during the Fourth Great Shinobi World War, Kaguya told Naruto and Sasuke that she was immortal. Not invulnerable, but immortal, meaning that she would live forever until somebody killed her. And pretty much all evidence seems to back that claim. See, Kaguya was sealed using the Six Path Shibaku Tensei over 2,000 years ago by none other than Hagoromo and Hamura using the Sun and Moon seal. And while one could maybe make the argument that being sealed with the Six Path Shibaku Tensei sealed off her body from aging or degrading, and therefore over the course of those 2,000 years inside the moon she didn't age, why is that how Six Path Shibaku Tensei would work? Wouldn't you want time to pass for whoever you sealed inside of a moon? You would want that person to age like room temperature milk inside that rock. You don't want to perfectly preserve them so that when they get out 2,000 years from now, they're going to be just like how you sealed them 2,000 years ago. On top of that, Shibaku Tensei, or Six Path Shibaku Tensei, just works by either making a gravity well or making somebody a gravity well that pulls a bunch of rocks to them. There's nothing about temporal fields, separate dimensions, stopping time. It just makes rocks either go towards an orb or a person who you make the orb. As a sealing jutsu, it's actually incredibly non-complex. It's just like, hey, imagine if all of the debris the size of a moon around you was pulled towards you as you became a gravity well. Have fun getting out of that. You simply can't. And while some people would say,
Oh yeah, but it's the Six Path Shibaku Tensei, so it's different from regular Shibaku Tensei.
Six Path Shibaku Tensei is just bigger. So we understand that Kaguya spent at least 2,000 years inside the moon, where we're assuming that time was passing for her, which means her natural life without karmic rebirth or the consumption of a chakra fruit would last at least 2,000 years. Now, is she able to survive that long because she ate the chakra fruit of Earth? Maybe. But all we really know about Kaguya is that the first ever chakra fruit she ate was the chakra fruit of Earth, and that prior to consuming this chakra fruit, she had undergone karmic rebirth so many times that she didn't want to do it again on Earth. But she isn't the only Otsutsuki who had to go thousands of years on Earth without karmic rebirth or the consumption of a chakra fruit, because at the same time that Kaguya was locked up in the moon, Ishiki was locked up in Jigen's brain, which is even more impressive when you consider the fact that Ishiki and Jigen weren't a compatible mix. So Ishiki lived inside of a body he was incompatible with for 2,000 years. At least. And because Jigen and Ishiki weren't fully compatible, Ishiki was never able to fully manifest in Jigen's body, which meant that Ishiki kept Jigen, a regular monk from 2,000 years ago, alive for 2,000 years. Now, once again, some would argue that the only reason that Ishiki/Jigen were able to survive that long is because they were siphoning off power from the Ten Tails. And by siphoning off this power from the Ten Tails, Jigen was able to stabilize and empower his body, which allowed him to live for 2,000 years. And this claim is kind of backed up by the fact that when Jigen absorbed chakra from the Ten Tails prior to his fight against Naruto and Sasuke, he says, "I'll need to absorb chakra from you again," implying that he's absorbed chakra from the Ten Tails in the past. But there's kind of one problem with this. So if we're assuming that an Otsutsuki siphoning off chakra from the Ten Tails is a way to keep them alive forever, why did Hagoromo die of old age? Oh wait, I got nothing but time. Actually, the longer we're here, the more I get paid. Hagoromo is a half Otsutsuki. He's Kaguya's child, and he was the Ten Tails Jinchuriki. Well, we don't know for sure how long Hagoromo lived. We know that he died of old age, mind you. And if a perfect Jinchuriki is supposed to be stronger than the tailed beast or the Jinchuriki separate, why wasn't Hagoromo able to tap into the power of the Ten Tails while he was its Jinchuriki and keep himself youthful? Kind of makes you wonder. Makes the other explanation that Ishiki just absorbs chakra from the Ten Tails before important fights seem a bit more likely. And all we can really say definitively is that Kaguya and Ishiki have lived on Earth or near Earth for at least 2,000 years, all without karmic rebirth or the consumption of a chakra fruit. Prior to these 2,000 years, they had both consumed chakra fruits. So do you only need one chakra fruit to become immortal, or are you simply just born with immortality? And unfortunately, when it comes out to Otsutsuki, we don't have a whole lot who have never consumed chakra fruits, because the two most important Otsutsuki that we're talking about here are Ishiki and Momoshiki, both who have eaten many chakra fruits. But if the key to immortality is the consumption of chakra fruits, wouldn't it stand to reason that the wielders of the karma markings from both Momoshiki and Ishiki would have immortality? I mean, it would kind of make sense, right? Momoshiki has consumed dozens of chakra fruits over his thousands of years of conquest and is now living inside of Boruto, a fully Otsutsufied body. A fully Otsutsufied body, mind you, he's compatible with. And if Ishiki was able to keep Jigen, a vessel he was incompatible with, alive for 2,000 years, who's to say that Momoshiki in a compatible vessel wouldn't be able to do the same? If Boruto dies, so does Momoshiki, and Momoshiki is incredibly selfish and strong-willed, so it's not like Momoshiki's gonna give up on Boruto anytime soon. And you can make a very similar argument for that of Kawaki. See, because while Ishiki's soul might be gone from Kawaki's karma marking, his chakra and his powers aren't. And if we assume that immortality is an extension of powers and chakra, it makes no sense to reason that immortality would be left out of all of the powers that Kawaki inherited with his new karma marking. Not to mention, these are chakra fruit we're talking about, right? Not soul fruit. And thus, if Otsutsuki immortality is tied to consuming a chakra fruit, so long as Kawaki had the chakra of Ishiki, which he does, there's no reason for us to believe that Kawaki wouldn't also have immortality. And thus, both Boruto and Kawaki have pretty solid cases for never dying, which get a lot more solid if you look at the moon, because Toneri Otsutsuki, a direct descendant of Hamura Otsutsuki, who can't be more than one generation separated from that of Hamura Otsutsuki, on account of the fact that Toneri looks like an Otsutsuki, while Asura and Indra, who are the children of Hagoromo, don't look like Otsutsukis, and it's not like Hamura stumbled upon more Otsutsukis on the moon, and therefore in order for Toneri to look like an Otsutsuki, it means he has to be very closely related to Hamura, such that he doesn't have the skin of a human, as obviously Otsutsuki DNA washes out, and therefore if we assume that Toneri is either the son of or the grandson of Hamura, this means that Toneri has to be at least a couple hundred, if not a couple thousand years old, all without ever undergoing karmic rebirth or the consumption of a chakra fruit. And mind you, he is guaranteed to not be 100% Otsutsuki. He is, at best, 25%. And thus, by Boruto and Kawaki becoming 100% Otsutsuki, all evidence seems to point in the direction of them being fully immortal, which raises a couple of key concerns. The first of which is that if they are truly immortal, they'll watch everybody they know and love die of old age. Well, not everyone. There's a fair chance that Mitsuki is also immortal, as Mitsuki is a direct clone of Orochimaru who now has a white Zetsu body and is therefore essentially immortal. Assuming that the genealogy has been passed to Mitsuki in any regard whatsoever, there's a fair chance that Mitsuki will also be immortal. Mitsuki has a less chance of being immortal than Kawaki and Boruto, but still better than anybody else in the story. But Sarada, Naruto, Himawari, Hinata, Sakura, Sasuke, Sumire, all super mortal, and therefore Kawaki, Boruto, and possibly Mitsuki will have to watch all of these people die of old age. It'll kind of be like Omni-Man yelling at Mark, the "What will you have in 500 years?" Except it's just Boruto, Kawaki, and Mitsuki all having each other. The second problem is that if Boruto and Kawaki are effectively immortal, then the chances of there being a sequel are dead in the water. At least there's no chance that there would be a sequel to Boruto in the next 2,000 years, as Boruto and Kawaki would either be able to fight over or defend Earth for the next 2,000 years. And if Boruto did end up having a child with Sarada, that child would live for a long time, but not forever, as both Hamura and Togoromo, the only case study we have for half Otsutsukis, died of old age. But here's the thing. I don't see the story ending with Boruto being immortal. Plot-wise, narratively, it just doesn't make sense. It's not how Kishimoto would write. While I do think it would be cool to watch Boruto as an immortal, watch all of his loved ones die, that's just not the style that Kishimoto writes in. The story needs an ending, and it's gotta be a happy one. However, I don't necessarily believe that this line of thinking applies to Kawaki. I could actually see the story of Boruto ending with Kawaki still being an immortal, and Kawaki's story would continue on with him traveling between dimensions, trying to undo all the damage that the Otsutskis have done for thousands of years. Partially as penance and partially to live up to his ideology of erasing the scourge of the Otsutsuki. However, after the goal of killing all the Otsutsuki has been acquired, erasing the scourge of the Otsutsuki will extend from killing all of them to erasing all evidence of them across infinite dimensions. And in order to achieve this and help all of the dimensions in existence, Kawaki would effectively need immortality. And that I could see, because genuinely I can't really see Kawaki settling down. There is a possibility that Kawaki ends up with Sumire and would do a kind of bland Naruto-esque ending, but Kawaki infinitely traveling between dimensions, cleaning up the Otsutsuki's mess, I find much more compelling. Not to mention that Kawaki remaining immortal, but Boruto returning to mortal would lead to a pretty cute moment of Kawaki being there as Boruto got old, which I could also see. But in order to achieve this end, Boruto at one point or another would have to return to being mortal. So how does that happen? Well, I see Boruto beating immortality, because I believe immortality is a curse, one of two ways. The first way in which Boruto would be able to beat immortality would be by exercising Momoshiki. That is to say that either Momoshiki is successful in the taking over of Boruto's body, but Boruto is able to place a karma marking on somebody else, or somehow Boruto is able to expel Momoshiki from his body. Now, the former is probably the more likely scenario here that leads to Boruto no longer being immortal, because even if Boruto were to expel Momoshiki's consciousness from his body would still be 100% Otsutsufied. Now, there is a possibility that the loss of Momoshiki would reverse that process or something, but as it currently stands, there's really just no way to tell. The second possibility that could lead to the loss of immortality on Boruto's end would be the possibility that Shibai Otsutsuki, the god of the Otsutsuki, is actually what gives all of the Otsutsuki in infinite dimensions their power. And therefore, after Shibai is defeated at the hands of humanity, all of the Otsutsuki across all of the worlds and dimensions will lose their power, thus nullifying them as a threat and also returning Boruto back to mortality. This would have the added benefit of keeping Kawaki as an immortal, because his karma marking is no longer tied to the Otsutsuki. His karma marking is now tied to like shinobi wear, like humanity. I guess technically both of these scenarios would have the added benefit of Kawaki still being immortal. But considering the fact that I believe the ending of Boruto will be an all-out battle between humanity and Shibai Otsutsuki, I think there's a fair chance that Shibai is revealed as the power source of all the Otsutsuki, and that by killing him, you kill all of the Otsutsuki. Because if that's not the case, then the Otsutsuki are still a threat at the end of Boruto's story, assuming that we haven't met every single Otsutsuki in the entire universe. And through one of these two methods, Boruto will be able to return to mortality, live a regular life with Sarada, have a child that'll eventually surpass him in terms of power, and then bada bing, bada boom, Kishimoto's writing Boruto until he's 70. And when you consider the fact that Masashi Kishimoto's net worth is estimated to only be between $25 and $27 million, which is an insane amount of money, but is less money than notable mangakas like Togashi, Tite Kubo, the mangaka of Bleach, who's estimated to be worth $40 to $56 million, Isayama, the mangaka of AOT, who's estimated to be worth $45 to $46 million, Akira Toriyama, who's worth $55 million, Rumiko Takahashi, the mangaka of Inuyasha, who's estimated to be worth $60 to $75 million, and Eshiro Oda, who's estimated to be worth $200 and $230 million. You can see why there would possibly be a little bit of motivation to keep those checks coming in. Don't ask me how Kishimoto was worth less than the mangaka of Inuyasha and Detective Conan. I just gotta assume this man doesn't own the rights to Naruto. But what do you guys think? Do you believe that Boruto and Kawaki are immortal? And if they are, do you believe they'll stay that way forever? Tell me in the comments below. And while you guys are down there, please, for me, like this video, subscribe to the page, and hit that noti bell. Kakashi is worth $30 million. I wouldn't finish Hunter x Hunter either.